Hello, I'm Trina Taylor of the Vance H. Chavis Lifelong Learning Branch Library. On behalf of Greensboro Public Library and the Greensboro Public Library Foundation, welcome to tonight's program, Full House, Working and Schooling at Home. In partnership with the community, the Greensboro Public Library strives to provide free and equal access to information, foster lifelong learning, and inspire the joys of reading. Now, it is my pleasure to welcome award-winning educator, founder of Kid Cultivators Homeschool Community, life learning coach, and community organizer, Leslie Bray.
Thank you, Trina, for having me and inviting me. Before I jump right in, I want to offer you just a little bit of my background so you know what I'm speaking from and what has shaped where I am and how I show up in the world. So I am a mother right now of 3 teens. I've been homeschooling, but before homeschooling, I was a classroom teacher. And so I've had about 10 years of classroom experience before coming home and starting my own family. And then once I had my children, we started the homeschooling process, and they've never had to be in a traditional classroom, but we've used a lot of resources through the library. I'm a big proponent of supporting your library, being in the library, letting your librarians know you and support you. My children have also been able to engage in online learning in different ways. So sometimes it's been a structured class. My eldest daughter has been dual enrolled in community college. And so even through this time, we've had to interact online. And so I do have some of that experience as well. What I do presently is I coach families and individuals in figuring out how to live more intentionally. And so I think everything that I'm going to share this evening falls nicely under that. We all are wanting to be the best we can be and offer our children the best we can offer them. And even in challenging times, if we're being thoughtful enough, we can definitely continue that pattern, even when we don't have a handle on things. So I want to offer you all some tips for just how to balance this. You've been doing it, so something has obviously been working. And so I always say start with what's working and then build on that. So these are things that you may already know. These are things you may have already tried. But hopefully I can offer maybe a new spin on them that you may be able to use presently in your life. And so the first one I want to offer you is create a schedule that works for you, the parent, one that works for your children, whatever their ages are, and then your family as a unit. So I'll say that again. You want to create a schedule for yourself or for the adults, for the children, and then for the family as a unit. And the reason why I say this is because everyone is at a different developmental stage. And so if you have a toddler, your toddler is not going to be able to handle the same things a middle school or high schooler would be able to manage. And having that expectation that they would is usually where we immediately will see conflict and challenges. And so starting from the beginning, just realizing that, yeah, I can't expect my little ones to be able to handle what the big ones. You also want to pay attention to attention span as well as their energy levels. You know, as adult people looking back over our lives, it's easy to say, oh, if my parents had only done, or if the teachers had only done. So think about that with regards to where your children are. Think about your children's ebbs and flows. Like, where do they have their most energy? Is it at the beginning of the day? Is it in the middle of the day? Or is it at the end of the day? As we age and develop, sometimes that shows up as being morning people versus being night owls. And if you've been with your children for a while, you probably know where they really thrive. And so I would even say setting up activities during the time when they are most ready to engage is probably the best option. Same thing for yourself. You know, those of you who may be working at home, doing something remotely, or even if you're having to go into the office from time to time, paying attention to where can you find flexibility? Where might you be able to, like, have your children focusing on school when you're not having to focus on work? So, for example, as a homeschooler, I've always been able to set my own schedule. And so, but it took me a while to figure out what that schedule would look like. When my children were younger, it centered on me. And okay, I need to get sleep, I need to eat, then I need to take care of this baby, then the toddler. And as they got school age, then we paid more attention to how they showed up. And so I would offer that to you all too. Even though school has set hours, there's set times that they have to be engaged, where are some flexibility that you might find? And this goes right into my second suggestion, which is change the way you think about getting work done. And so before COVID, when we were engaged in the outside world where you were dropping kids off, or maybe they were taking the bus and you were going somewhere and then you were meeting at the end of the day and getting things done, there was an assumption that school took care of all the things they needed to take care of, and I just need to check the homework, get them ready for bed, take them to an activity. Like there was responsibilities were given in different ways, and different people helped with that. So it didn't just fall just on you. And so, where might you be able to create just the work and school balance in your home? So looking for the flexibility in your own personal work schedule. Are there times where instead of working, let's say 8 to 4, like you might have before COVID, maybe is there a time frame early in the morning where you can get up and get your work done and then have attention for your children? Or is it, I need to give my attention to my children and then I take care of my work later in the evening? Or do we create like a study hall session where mommy and daddy have to do this and you all are doing this and we're all doing it at the same time? So figuring out what that looks like for your family helps you then know what the other times should be comprised of. So if the schedules are set, then definitely you have to work in those set hours. If you have flexibility, I would encourage you play with that flexibility. See where, you might be a night owl and you may have a job where maybe there's 1 or 2 meetings that you have to be in on, but the rest of it is something that you do on your own, or you're managing on your own. And so maybe altering your own work schedule so that your children take the primary bulk of the day in your energy, in your time and attention may help with a scheduling that works for everyone. My next tip is plan for breaks and stick to them. And these are all the kinds of breaks, the daily breaks. So whether that's for lunch, whether it's for bathroom, whether it's for go outside and exercise, like whatever the breaks you want that your children need to have, that you need to have, the self-care breaks, the moments where I need to step away and unplug from all of you all. Figure out what those breaks are and put them in your schedule and then stick to them. One of the things I have learned is as parents, we sometimes function so much on that we wait until we're crashing to take a break. And then, I may say every Monday at 7 is my time, and I'm going to take this time for me. And I may take a walk, or I may take a bath, or I may read a book, or I may call a friend. There are lots of ways I can recharge. But then next week, oh, we've had a pretty good week. Oh, I don't need a break this time. And you keep going. I say, no, whatever break you put in place, take it every time, whether you are at your wit's end or not. Once you get that as a regular thing you do. It teaches you as well as your family about the ebbs and flows. And I would say, think about your children needing breaks. What do breaks look like for them? Is it a tickle break? Is it a run around the house and scream break? Like, depending on your children's ages, they may need different things. And so, talking to them, if they're old enough to have an idea about something, I would say talk directly to them, speak to them. Ask them, what would you like to do? What does downtime look like for you? Does it mean we sit together and we're quiet, we watch something, we go for a walk, you get to, FaceTime or do something with a friend? Like, there are lots of ways you can create downtime in your family, but make sure it's something that checks your box as well as your children's boxes. And so I also want to offer another tip that's around thinking about ways you can help your children become more independent. So instead of relying on you to, well, mommy does this, or daddy does this, or auntie does it, instead of relying on the other people in their lives to always do, where can you invite them to show up and do for themselves? If they're only children, that may look different than if they're siblings. If there's siblings in a household, maybe there's your older sister's going to help you with this, or your older brother's going to help you with this. Where are ways where you can help them function? That can fall in that fixing snacks, or helping with the meal prep, or helping with the chores around the house. Now that you're all at home, there are more opportunities for them to, maybe the break in the morning is, we're going to spend 15 minutes and straighten up. Or maybe that becomes an afternoon break. After we're done and we're transitioning from school and work time, let's return our environment to the way that we like it so that we can enjoy this downtime together. Also, ask them what things they would like done in the house. So I'll give you an example from my own family. We're typically at home. There are times when we get to visit other people's homes. Before 2020 and we were traveling, my children enjoyed coming to the Greensboro area. That's where their grandmother lives. My mother lives there. And they would always talk about, Mama's house is so clean. Oh, Mom, it's just so neat. I want our house to look like that too. And so I said, well, Mama cleans up. Like, she spends 15 minutes every day cleaning up. And as they've gotten older, they've adopted that habit as, okay, this isn't a regular chore, but, we're going to wash down everything in these 15 minutes, or we're going to make it a game and set a timer and see how much you can get done in 15 minutes, and then stop when it's done. So it doesn't become the dragging on of chores. Kids don't like chores, just like some of us don't like chores either. So being realistic in our expectations around that. Another suggestion I have is for each of you all to make a list of the things that you are accomplishing. Sometimes we are so in the weeds, we don't pan out enough to see the beautiful forest that we're residing in. And maybe you've made so many to-do lists that you haven't been able to check things off. It gets exhausting. Oh my goodness, I didn't get this done from yesterday, and it becomes the thing I'm focused on for today. A couple of years ago, I had a friend that said, why don't you make a to-done list and write down everything you've done and see if that changes how you feel about your day at the end of it. I can tell you from experience that changed my perspective. And then I noticed I do more things than are on my to-do list. And sometimes, while I may not have gotten these 3 things checked off on my to-do list, I did 15 other things. And let me give myself credit in that way. And with that, I will extend that to your children. Sometimes we get so into, did you get your work done? Have you finished this? Is this turned in? Are you, we're hounding them about the things we want them to get done, that they should be getting done. But we don't always take the time to acknowledge where they are doing well. And wow, you were able to fix this snack and clean it behind you and not interrupt you while I was in this meeting. I'm so proud of you. Thank you. Those things reinforce the good that you want your children to be able to do. Another tip I have is create designated spaces for your work and their schoolwork. So it's not all through the house. That is, it's sometimes harder with teenagers because they like to be in their room a lot. But even having them have a space in their room. So even if you're going to be in your room to do this, sit at the desk or make a pallet on the floor, like something that is comfortable for them, but that's not in their bed, or that may not be in a place where you can check in on them regularly. So maybe that is in the living room or the den or at the dining room table or even at the kitchen table. But whatever it is, make it the regular place so that they know when I come here, I'm going to be in the mindset of getting my things done. And that way, when they take a break, you ask them to leave that space. So it's actually a visual break as well as the mental and maybe physical break. Just like it takes about 30 days to develop a new habit, it takes time to get into a new routine and to figure out a new schedule. Oftentimes, we don't give ourselves and our family enough time to get used to something new before we change it up again. So you may say, okay, we're going to get up, we're going to go for a walk, we're going to have breakfast, and then we're going to do work and school. And that may be new. Maybe you're saying, I'm going to get up early and I'm going to do my work and then I'm going to be available to my child. And then we're going to check in and then we'll have breaks later in the day. Whatever the schedule you're thinking, if it's new, give yourselves about a month to even try it out. It's going to take your kids time to, oh, that's what we're doing first, or, oh, that's what I'm supposed to do. It also lowers the um, anxiety around when something's not working. You know, it could be we're just having a bad day, that's why it didn't work. Or, yeah, we just needed more practice doing this. And so offering yourself and your children more time to get used to a new schedule is what I would encourage you to do. And that way, after 30 days, you can look back and actually get a better sense of, did this really work for us? Did we have enough positive interactions with this to say, yeah, this works really well, or no, this isn't it either? And a continuation of that is be willing to make whatever changes you need to make. So after you've given yourself and your children time to figure out the new schedule, the new routine, the new practice, the new habits, then ask them, hey, how is this working? How do you all feel about this? Is this feeling good for you? Is it going with our family's rhythms? Do they feel positive? Are you feeling more challenged? Is it feeling like more work? Is it, you know, have the conversation with your family, get their input in this because all these things affect them directly as well. I also want to add just being mindful and attentive to your children's physical, emotional, and mental well-being. A lot of time has been, I know in the community where I am, the parents have talked about how the 2020 affected us and the losses we've experienced and the grief we've had and the sadness and the disappointment, as well as the joy. But we don't always translate that into, well, how are our children doing? How have your children been handling this? What are the things that may be coming up in their behavior, or maybe their sleep patterns, or the way they're eating? Utilize the resources that you have. So mental health professionals, schools have counselors, and because children haven't been in school, they haven't had access to other professional adults who kind of check in on those things. So remaining mindful about that and knowing that even if you have little children, their lives have been affected by the change, even if it's just a slight way. Pay attention to those things and seek out those resources that you need for your family and your children specifically, so that you're not missing something. You don't just think, oh, they're just sleeping because they're teenagers, as opposed to, yeah, they're grieving or they're depressed. And definitely, this is my last tip, definitely keep the lines of communication open for all the people that you're in relationship with. So that's the lines of communication, you and your partner, if you're partnered, or your spouse. If you're parenting with a partner, having those lines of communication open, having the lines of communication open with your children, knowing what they're doing, knowing how they're feeling, um, what they're understanding and what they're processing. And the lines of communication open with the school. So that's the teacher, that may be a counselor, that may be the principal. Like there are other school officials that your school may have designated that you reach out to regularly. But keeping those lines of communication open, because you want everyone working together for the good of your children. And so being on speaking terms with everyone, being able to call a teacher and letting them know, this isn't working well for my child. What can we do? Um, I know with the amount of screen time, a lot of us have found that to be a challenge. While some children, I know children who have thrived during this time because they weren't in person kind of people. And so they have actually liked the screen. But then we have a whole set of children that the screen is not working for. And so wherever your children or child falls, being able to relay that information to the teacher and seeing again, where does flexibility lie? Of course, the school wants a certain thing a certain way at a certain time, but where is their flexibility? I'm of the mind to always ask. If you get a no, then you at least know it's a no. But if you ask, maybe there's an option, maybe there's another maybe there's an alternative that the teacher would offer and is willing to offer, because teachers are also trying to figure out the balance of this too. And so definitely keeping those lines of communication open. Well, this next section, I've called it like, what's in your toolbox? These are questions I'm going to offer you to answer for yourself. And even if you have older children, ask them too, so that you get their answers. So when I think about a toolbox, I typically think of one of those big bags with hammer and, screwdrivers and wrenches and all those types of things. We all have toolboxes. Some of the things that are in our toolboxes are things that we place there intentionally. Some things are there that were put there maybe from our parents or our teachers growing up. Some things may just have dropped in there because you passed by somebody and you overheard something. But I use this figuratively, of course, but looking through your own toolbox to see, what do I already have? So here are some questions that I have to offer you. What do you have access to that you may have forgotten that you have access to? What people or resources are you already connected to that, again, you may have forgotten about? So maybe it's through, let's say, church, or maybe it's through a community organization or a club. Maybe it's through, relatives, family, maybe their grandparents that have a connection. Maybe it's, someone in your neighborhood. Think about the people and resources you are already connected to and where you might be able to find additional help, in the sense of maybe it's childcare help that your family's needing. Maybe it's homework help. Maybe it's like tutoring. Maybe it's the watching, coming a child care swap situation where you get a break and then you trade out with someone where they get a break. Um, Maybe it's actual books that you need, or technology that you need support around. whatever you're seeing that your needs are, think about who you're already connected to. Then where can you use your creativity? We are all creative beings. It may not be in writing or may not be in the arts, it may not be way of music, but we're all creative. Tap into your creativity, and where can you use your own creativity to figure out how to navigate some of the challenges that have come up. The one great thing about right now, like today in April, you all are coming to the end of a school year. And so this is a really good time to look back to see what has really worked well. Where have my children thrived during this time? And then also think about, where were all the bumps and the challenges? Where were the headaches? Where were the frustrations? And using your creativity, where might you adjust things going forward? I know that school systems are starting to look at in-person classes again, so not knowing what your particular school is looking at doing, but definitely use this time as a reflective time too. You have made it. You all are making it. And there are ways that you have been, I'm hoping there have been very healthy ways you've been doing that. And in the times where you've had those challenges, where might you find the help and assistance? What structures might you need to put in place? So this goes back to the example of having a schedule and having a knowable and predictable schedule for your children. That may be something that you write out and you put up on the wall so everybody knows and there's no question about it. It may be something that you start each week with little ones, talking them through how the week is going to look. It may be where your family needs something on a daily basis, where you touch base, you have a family meeting for 15 minutes every morning to talk about, okay, here are the important things, here are the expectations for the day. And then also look back and see where, again, why might you be able to put some more flexibility. The one thing about doing work and school at home is it's all meshed together now. And you're going to have to be really intentional, if you haven't been up till now, in making some separations. Life does flow like that, but being able to say, I am done working and I can give my attention to you now, or schoolwork is over now. You know, you should have gotten it done early. I'm going to say you're done now because I know you need some downtime. And so you want to make sure those things are in place. Also, where do you need to push the boundaries forward? You know, so it may be around, I'm thinking schoolwork. You may have to say, we're going to stop at this time. After 2 hours of homework, we are done. And you'll have to have more time tomorrow, or you'll have to be better about managing yourself the next day so that you can make sure your children are getting the downtime. Or you may, if you're noticing that, yeah, they're not taking advantage of this time. They're playing all during the day and they're not getting their work done. And now we're pushed up close to bedtime. Maybe I need to make it more of a mandatory, from this time to this time, I'm going to sit with you while you do it. Not to do it with you, but to be in your presence. Maybe that is the monitoring that needs to happen so that they, again, learn to use their time. Here's another question for you. How might you transform the how-tos into something that works for you and your family? So the school classroom teacher may tell you, you have to do X, Y, and Z by this date, or you have to log in on this time. Where might you be able to tweak that? Again, the conversation that you have with the teacher, the conversation you have with the school, so that you're paying attention to how best your child learns. And making the right adjustments so that it's not overburdened. They're not getting burnt out. They're not having a meltdown in the middle of the class. All these things, all these questions, the answers that you come up with will basically help you flesh out the things you value. Because what we value is where we put our energy. So knowing, what do I value about all of this? You know, who are the people I want my children to be? What are the things I want to make sure they are getting during this time? What are the things that I know that life is going to give them the opportunity to learn, so I don't have to be so strict about, or tightly reined in on them about? Even paying attention to who your children are. What are the goals they have for themselves? Including them in the conversation helps them own their learning and helps them take responsibility for the things they're doing well and even the things that aren't coming as easy as they would like. And do what you can do to set your schedule and your life up so that it matches all the personalities in your home. Of course, this is not an easy task. I will let you know. I've made schedule and readjusted and made a schedule. And as children learn and grow, those schedules change. So know that whatever you do come up with now will probably have to be revised, just because we all are learning and growing, and your children are doing that as well. I'm going to offer you all some homework, because adults need homework too, right? And when I say homework, I really mean self-work. You are your home. And this is something that I have done, my husband and I did years ago, and I'm going to even show you we created something that we hang on our wall. I had to take it off the wall. But we made a family mission statement. We have two girls and a boy, and we wanted to create something that our family could look at to remind ourselves of who do we want to be in the world? How do we want to show up? What are the things that we're going to use as a guide for what we say yes to and what we say no to? So specifically around education and learning, knowing who you want to put out in the world helps you decide, do we say yes to this activity or do we say no to this activity? And so creating a family mission statement is just a great way to do that. Sometimes they're called different things, but I'm going with family mission statement. So I'm going to read mine. And it says, we are Bray Party of 5. We are seeking to raise healthy, thoughtful, well-adjusted children who make room for others, seek the good in the world, and contribute positively to community. More specifically, we want them to be self-motivated and self-starters and finishers. People who are compassionate and make time to listen and learn. People who cooperate with others and know how to deal with conflict in generative ways. People who understand their worth and have no need to question their validity and generously extend this to others. People who are connected to spirit and live out of a place of love and hope. People who see their responsibility to the earth and live in sustainable ways. And so that was our family mission statement. And it's up in a place where we look back at it. And over the years, the way we've gone about our lives have changed because we have changed and evolved. But this is our touchstone. We still touch back in to say, are we fulfilling this? Are you all becoming these people? And it's actually, now that I have a graduate, a high school graduate, she graduates next month, being able to see she is the exhibit of the things we had hoped for. And so I would just encourage you during this time that you get to be with your families on a more regular basis, figure out what it is you all want to do and be as a family. And that's a great activity that ties in all the things I've already shared, just the tips of the planning and the scheduling and the being attentive and being intentional. That is a great way to like solidify your family's relationships between each other. And so I want to offer that to you. And so that is all I have for this evening.